Hello, geometry cherubs. Today we're going to talk about the area of trapezoids. So to find the area of trapezoids, we just need to have the trapezoid formula. But before I can give you the formula, we need to talk about the body parts of a trapezoid. So a trapezoid is a special quadrilateral that has just one pair of parallel sides, of opposite sides parallel, and the sides that are not parallel are called the legs. And it's important to know which is which when I get to the formula in a minute. The question is, where is the height? Well, we have to remember the base and height are always perpendicular. And so here's the height. The height will be the perpendicular distance between the bases. So if you drop the altitude down and measure it, that's the height. And we're going to need to know the measurements of both bases and the measurements of the height in order to use the area of the trapezoid formula. The area is half the height times the sum of the bases. So if we're going to find the area of this trapezoid, we have to say, well, these are the legs. I don't need their lengths for the formula. I need the sum of the bases times the height cut in half. Here's my formula, and I plug and chug. All right. Now, be careful because your first step is to figure out who are my legs, who are my bases, and then you'll know what you need for your formula. So to find the area of this trapezoid, these are the legs, and I don't need their lengths for the formula, but I do need the length of the bases, and I can tell these are the bases because the bases are the sides that are parallel. So I'm going to add up the bases, sum of the bases times the height times 1/2. Pause the video and find the area of this trapezoid. You have to notice that this is a square, and that will inform you that all these side lengths are all 5. You're going to need that because this is the height, 5. This is one of the bases, 5. And you're going to need to use the 5 to get the second base by adding up 3 plus 5 plus 4. And then you can plug it into the formula. Pause, find the area, and then press play for the solution. Base 1, base 2, height. So now let's snazz it up a little bit. Pause and see if you can figure out the area of this trapezoid. The trick to this is, these are my legs, so I don't need their lengths for the formula. These are my bases. I am going to need them. The sum of the bases will be 0.9 plus 2.1, totals of 3. But my height will be this length, and I'm going to have to do a side problem to figure it out. Now, if you draw the altitude here, you will form a 45, 45, 90 triangle that has this as its hypotenuse. And you'll have to remember the 45, 45, 90 pattern. If you draw in your height like so, then you see you have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. How do you go backwards from hypotenuse backwards? Well, you say this hypotenuse is one of the legs, root 2. And so you divide both sides by root 2 to get the height. Once you know the height, you can plug everything into the formula to find your area. So pause, practice on your own paper, and then press play. Because this is a right angle, if I drop down my height, my altitude, and know that's the measurement of that's the height, I will form a little 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. And when I do so, this part's 5, and I've got to figure out what this part is. If the whole thing is 7, and this part was 5, then this little part would be 2. And once I see that it's a little 30, 60, 90 triangle, and I know that this is 5 and this is 2, well, this little part that's 2 is across from the 30, so it's a shorty, so my height has to be 2 root 3, And then to get my hypotenuse would be double, would be 4. But nobody asked me for it. I'm just saying. So then here's one base, and here's the second base, and here's the height. Pause, find the area, and then press play for the solution. In this case, we know this part is 9, so we know this first base up here, base number 1, will be 9. But to get all of base number 2, we're going to have to figure out this little chunk and add it to this 9. So this whole base number 2 has to be added to base number 1. We're also going to have to come over here in this 30, 60, 90 triangle and figure out what the height is, the height of the trapezoid. So first thing we do is we draw in our little height. We're going to need to know our height, but the purple length here we're also going to need to know because we're going to have to add it to the 9 to get the whole second base. We see that H is the short leg across from 30, and this is the hypotenuse, which is double shorty, which means our height would be 4. And then we know that if this is 4, then across from the 60, the purple long leg would be 4 root 3. So now we have to add 4 root 3, add the 4 root 3 to 9 to get this whole base, and it's approximately 15.93. Now we have the top base, the bottom base, and we have the height. So we have everything we need to plug it into the formula to get the area. So pause, find the area of this trapezoid, and then press play for the solution. In this case, nobody told we don't have any angles, so we can't use our 45, 45, 90. We can't use our 30, 60, 90. What's the other theorem that we could use if we have a right triangle and we know 2 out of 3 sides? The Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the height, because we see these are the base lengths. This base is 4 plus 1, 5, and this base is 3. 3 plus 5 will be 8 is our sum of our bases, but we need the height. So we use Pythagorean theorem, and we solve, and we get that the height is approximately 2.83. So now we have both bases, we have the height, and we have everything we need to plug it into the formula. Up here, plug it right in. Pause, practice on your own paper, and then press play. This whole thing is 15. So that means that when we make our 30, 60, 90 triangle, this is the hypotenuse. That means the short leg across from the 30 has to be 4. That means this must be 11. This is a rectangle, so this must be 11. So now we know both our bases. One base is 11 and the other base is 15. We also need the height, so we go back to our 30, 60, 90 triangle, and we see that if the short leg is 4, then the long leg height is 4 root 3. So now we know the height and both bases, so we have everything we need to plug into our formula. Area equals half the height times the sum of the bases. Here's a challenge. I won't provide the solution. If you want to struggle with it on your own and would like any help from me, let me know. And you can now complete the trapezoid problems in the packet, in the problem packet, and also the matching Math Excel for school. And as always, let me know if you need me.